Here's where it gets stranger. This isn't only about cruelty or arguments, it also shows up in confidence. Some people who feel quiet and unsure in person become funny, expressive, even flirtatious online. The same removal of social cues that can make someone harsher can also make someone freer. Without the fear of an immediate, visible reaction, some people finally say the thing they actually meant to say. That's the part that complicates the whole picture. The online version of you isn't a fake version. It's an unfiltered one. Sometimes that unfiltered version is worse. Sometimes it's more honest than the cautious, careful person you are when somebody is watching your face. So which one is the real you? Most psychologists would say neither. Fully. You're not secretly a troll who happens to be polite in person. You're not secretly a saint who happens to get nasty online. You're a person whose behavior bends depending on how much social feedback is available in the moment. Take away the eyebrow raises, the pauses, the shoulder drops, and a different set of instincts takes the wheel. This matters because it changes how you think about the things you read every day. The angriest comment under a video wasn't necessarily written by an angry person. It might have been written by someone who would never say a word of it out loud, because face to face, their own brain would have stopped them halfway through the sentence. It also changes how you think about your own posts. The bravest thing you ever said online might not be a sign of who you really are. It might be a sign of what happens to anyone once the social breaks get removed. Try this the next time you're about to send something sharp. Read it back as if you were saying it across a table, looking directly at the person's face. If it would make you flinch in that moment, that flinch is information. It's the cue your brain skipped, showing up a few seconds too late. You post something at midnight that you would never say out loud, but now you know it's not really about midnight or about being bold. It's about a missing eyebrow raise, a missing pause, and a brain quietly deciding that since nobody's watching, the rules don't apply tonight. You post something at midnight that you would never say out loud. A sharp comment, a bold opinion, a joke you would never tell in front of your boss. You hit send. Your heart doesn't even race. But picture the same words coming out of your mouth at a dinner table. Your face would go red before you finish the sentence. So what changed? Your personality didn't change. The words didn't change. Something else shifted and almost nobody notices it happening in real time. Think about the last time you scrolled through your own old comments. Some of them probably made you wince. Not because they were untrue, because they sounded like someone slightly louder than you, slightly meaner than you, slightly braver than you. That person online and the person at the dinner table are both you. But your brain treats them like two different people, and there is a reason for that. Psychologists call part of this the online disinhibition effect, a term coined by psychologist John Suler back in 2004. He noticed that people behave with less restraint behind a screen than they ever would face-to-face. Not because the internet makes people worse, because the internet removes the signals that normally keep behavior in check. Here's what those signals actually are. In a real conversation, you are reading dozens of cues every second. A raised eyebrow, a pause, the way someone's shoulders drop when you say something careless. Your brain is wired to track all of this, because for most of human history, getting it wrong meant real consequences. A damaged friendship, a broken alliance, exile from the group that kept you fed and safe. Online, almost none of those cues exist. No eyebrow, no pause, no shoulders dropping. Just a small blinking cursor and a blank box waiting for your next move. Your brain still wants to use its old social radar, but the radar has nothing to scan. So it stops checking, and that is when a different version of you steps forward. This isn't just a hunch. In the 1960s, social psychologist Philip Zimbardo described something he called deindividuation, the loss of a strong sense of personal identity when people feel anonymous or blended into a crowd. He saw it in his research on group behavior, where people did things in groups they would never do alone, simply because nobody could trace the action back to them specifically. A username is not your face. A profile picture is not a body language. The internet hands you something close to a costume, and it turns out people behave differently the moment they believe nobody is really looking. You can feel this happening before you even type. Notice it next time you're scrolling and your thumb hovers over a comment box. There's a small voice that says, "Who's going to know it was you?" That voice doesn't show up nearly as loudly when you're speaking out loud to a real face in a real room. But anonymity is only half of it. The other half is speed. In person, a conversation moves slowly enough for your brain to catch itself. You start a sentence, you watch the other person's face shift, and you adjust mid-thought. That tiny built-in delay is doing more work than you realize. It's a kind of social brake pedal. Online, that delay disappears. You read something upsetting, and your fingers are already moving before your slower, more careful thinking catches up. Psychologists sometimes describe this as the gap between fast emotional reactions and slow reflective ones. Daniel Kahneman, the psychologist who helped popularize this distinction, called the fast version System 1 and the slow version System 2. Texting and posting are built almost entirely for System 1. You see it, you feel it, you fire it off. Now add one more ingredient, the one that makes all of this addictive instead of just occasional. Attention. Every platform you scroll through is quietly tracking what makes you stay a few seconds longer. Outrage keeps you scrolling longer than calm agreement does. A clever insult gets more replies than a kind one. So the platform doesn't just allow the louder version of you. It rewards it. Each like, each reply, each notification is a tiny hit of dopamine, the brain chemical tied to anticipation and reward. Your brain doesn't fully distinguish between getting praise from a close friend and getting praise from a stranger's thumbs up. It just registers. That worked. Do it again. So the version of you that gets a little bolder, a little sharper, a little less careful keeps getting reinforced, one notification at a time. Not because you're choosing to become that person, because the system is quietly training you to.